Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the podcast that helps agents, teams, and leaders understand how artificial intelligence is changing real estate and the strategies you can use to win. I'm your host, Rajiv Saja. In today's episode, we explore how agents can move beyond using AI as a simple tool and start using it as a true business operating system. I'm joined by Felix Bravo, Managing Director of International Expansion at eXp Realty, who shares how he uses AI to scale communication, automate decision-making, and build custom tools without a tech background. We discuss everything from creating a digital version of yourself and building AI-powered personal assistants to developing custom applications that solve real business problems and create a competitive advantage with the clients. If you've been using AI primarily for writing content or answering questions, this conversation will challenge you to think bigger about what's possible and how AI can help you scale your business without scaling complexity. Let's dig in with Felix. Welcome to episode 126. Can't believe it. We're already in the early June when you air this episode. Obviously, we're recording it a few weeks before, but today's guest comes to us from eXp International. He's the managing director of eXp International, Felix Bravo. He's also a real estate agent. So I love the perspective that he's going to have where he's practicing as an agent, but also teaching agents how to become more efficient and the topic of AI. So Felix, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. So excited to be here. It's 126. That's quite the achievement.
Well, hey, look, there's so much we can share, and I'm glad. I'm in many ways I'm blessed to be at the corner of interviewing smart people like you, and learning myself and sharing that wisdom with people, our listeners, and email readers, etc. So if you're watching us on YouTube, Felix is sporting a hat, which is the new ticker symbol for eXp. And I got wind of that when Next Home and eXp came together or acquisition, and I heard Leo on the podcast of Dwiggins. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the hat. Anyway, so Felix,
we're starting to sell the hat for anyone. I love it not just because I actually am a firm believer in what we're doing, and AGNT I think stands for something great. We're building the agent platform, but I'm an AI nerd, and when I wear this hat, I feel like a lot of my AI friends are like, "Oh, is that like AI agent? That's what the hat stands for?" I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
I got a little dual purpose out of it.
There it is. Yeah, depending on who you talk to, it'll resonate with both. So Felix, before we begin, I'd love for you to walk us through how you got into real estate and bring us to today.
Yeah. So I am originally from Venezuela. I immigrated here to the United States. I'm based out of Miami, Florida, when I was quite young. And my mom was a lawyer in Venezuela. And when we moved to the United States, obviously she didn't want to go to law school all over again. So she did what everybody does when they don't know what to do. And she got a real estate license. I got to see my mom get started in her real estate career when I was quite young. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I always joke that I was the youngest realtor in all of Florida because at the time you couldn't take the state exam in Spanish. You can now, but at that time you couldn't. And my mom's English wasn't great, but I picked up English quite early since I was young. And so one summer she sat me down after failing the test, I think 2 or 3 times, and was like, "I will buy you whatever video game, whatever toy you want, if you could just help me get through this test." And so for a whole summer, I helped her study and helped her practice and kind of, walked her through it. And so I knew what a mortgage was by the time I was like 9 years old. And so I got into the industry quite young. I was helping her. My first real job was just being her assistant, and whether that was open houses, scheduling things, scheduling showings, a lot of property management stuff. And then in my teenage years, I started working for a gentleman based out of here, South Florida, who was quite the local legend in the new development space. And so that's where I started my career. And by the time I was 22 years old, I was a sales director for my first project. I had about 57 units in a project here called Bijou in Bay Harbor Islands, and just kind of went from there. And I fully fell in love with the new development space. I was working in-house directly for the developers for quite a long time, and then eventually decided to start my own team and build my own more general real estate related business, not just new development. But being Miami, we were such an international community. Probably 70% of our buyers came from outside of the US. and I traveled quite a lot through Latin America and a couple other places, presenting projects. And so I got a feel and understanding for what international real estate was like. And started my own brand. Was partnered with a couple of other big virtual brokerages here in the United States. I got to be a part of a couple of brands that were startups and help them grow and scale. And that was my first sort of taste into somewhat of this like hybrid corporate role at the time. And then I was coming over to EXP just as an agent to build my team. And I met Glenn and Leo, our CEO, who's also based out of here in Miami. And they, I loved working with them, and they thought I'd be good at what we're currently doing. And so I gave it a go. And even though I'm still a licensed agent, I haven't been active for three something odd years now. And I've been fully just focused on running our international expansion, running our international division. And it's been a journey.
And you are currently the managing director of EXP International.
Correct. Yeah.
So what was I know you've been involved with AI for maybe a bit earlier than most people got wind of it. Everybody's got wind of it like November 2022. What was your first light bulb moment with AI?
I had a couple. I would say the first time that I was using, I remember using the very early versions of ChatGPT. And I was just using it for fun. I just thought it was almost like a party trick. Let me show you something cool. And I was talking to a computer, and the computer was talking back to me super fast. And that was it. That was as cool as that got. And then I think the first light bulb moment I had was, there used to be this thing on ChatGPT that they killed a long time ago. I think it was called widgets or something like that, where it was the first time that they added any sort of connectors, and you could connect it to Canva.
I think it was plugins.
Plugins. And you can connect it to Canva and a couple of other things. And I watched a video, I think on YouTube, that was here's how you can make YouTube videos without speaking, writing, or recording anything. And I was like, wow, that's insane. And then I went on ChatGPT and I played around with the plugins, and I made a YouTube video, and I picked a random subject. I think I just did the story of Starbucks or something like that. And I had ChatGPT script an entire video for me. I had, I think 11 labs at the time, maybe do the entire AI voiceover. And then on Canva, it just took a bunch of images and basically created this faceless YouTube video that was 5 minutes long, talking about the story of Starbucks. And all I did was just prompt it. I didn't do much. And then it spit it out, and I put it up on YouTube. And I remember going, oh my God. I mean, mind you, the video is pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. The video was not great. But I did that in 30, 45 minutes. And I was just like, this is the craziest thing ever. And so that was the first sort of light bulb moment that I had as somebody thinking through the lens of an entrepreneur. I've started outside of real estate. I started another company called The Ground Up, which was it is a portal for all of the new development homes between West Palm Beach and South Florida. And we did a partnership with the Miami Real Estate Association as well, and gave it out to all 60,000 plus agents. And at the time, I was really thinking about how to market and advertise more for some of these projects. And I was like, I could just spin up thousands of videos talking about every single pocket and neighborhood of South Florida and generate a ton of leads from that. So my mind started churning. And now, as I started growing within, in my leadership positions at EXP, and now I have over 200 staff in 27 different countries, all time zones from Australia to here to the United States. That's when I started using AI as an operator. And I had a couple more just sort of the light bulb moments, I feel happen every quarter, basically.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So fast.
Great insight, and I think depending on where you are, as you're listening to Felix talk, depending on where you are in your journey, I think the one commitment all of us need to make is we just sort of need to be, this time next year, you're much better with leveraging AI as an operator or a business operating system, depending on how you look at it. Move away from tool to teammate and have things taken off of your plate so you can actually focus on what's meaningful, which is your client relationships, right? Truly do more of that. So, and it's interesting when we got connected, I was really excited to talk to you because you have an agent perspective. Majority of our listeners are agents. And then you're obviously in a leadership role now where you're actually scaling growth for big company. And there are agents sort of listening to your voice, and actually you're kind of embarking systems on them that would help them grow their business. So let's kind of take three to four things that you feel like agents listening, start wherever you want to start. How do you feel like, don't do these one-off things? Maybe if people are listening to us, that's where they are, that's fine. But the
Yeah.
sooner you can scale, and systems scale businesses, not one-off tools don't scale it. So talk through that journey for you and the people you're teaching.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think there's multiple avenues for use cases of AI. There, like you said, there's some things that are just one-off tools that might help you for one very specific use case in your business, and those are fantastic. And honestly, they're really good, like entry level sort of stepping stone into getting into AI. And then I think second route two is, excuse me, using it as an operator and helping it actually scale your business and leveraging AI that scales with you, which is really fancy for just you have a system that as your business grows, it stays the same. It's not just a one-off tool for one use case. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, right? Like I would argue that probably 90% of the population still only uses AI as a Google search for the most part, in the sense that you're just asking it questions and getting answers, and that's a really good first start. But then you have to start thinking about how you can use AI to do things for you while you're not even there, right? And so, for me, if you think about my work life balance, it's basically non-existent, because when I'm going to sleep, I oversee over 300 agents on the other side of the world in Australia and New Zealand who are, I'm getting messages during my sleep time while they're awake, right? And so that was sort of the first thing I wanted to solve using AI, which was, how do I make it so that people can essentially get what they need from me, so that the business can run 24/7, whether I'm awake or not, or traveling or not. And I built my own digital me, which I did it on ChatGPT, and it was when you could start making custom GPTs at the time kind of first started. And so what my digital me is basically an AI version of myself as an operator. And if you're listening and you have a team or assistants, et cetera, there's a lot of times where they need you and you're just not available. And so I spent probably about a week downloading every piece of information, every SOP, every document, and also just word vomiting into a custom chat GPT, just telling it everything about how the business scales, operates. I built out a full back-end blueprint of how I want to solution problems. What are the biggest problems and most common challenges that we face in our business? Answering not necessarily what the answer to the problem is, but how I want my people to think through challenges. And then I created this custom chat GPT called just Felix Bot that you could talk to at any time. And at first it was kind of gimmicky and funny. And then what ended up happening is I realized that like a lot of my team members stopped actually talking to me, and they were just talking to my chat GPT. And then they would come to me and be like, hey, I had this question or I had this idea, and then I ran it through your chat GPT and it pushed back on a couple of things. And here's my now thought through process. And so when we were entering into a conversation, we were already 3 or 4 conversations ahead. So it saved us quite a lot of time. It also stopped the challenge of like, hey, sometimes I'm on a plane, sometimes I'm a human, I need to sleep. And that was a really big aha moment for me on, okay, I'm now having AI have conversations for me. And it's, they're not always going to be perfect. They're not as good as just speaking to me. Yes. But I didn't try to replace myself. I tried to replace like the first 5 questions I would ask somebody if they were coming to me with a challenge, right? Like,
I think you touch on a few things. I mean, I think agents, if you think about Google search, and the other day, you'll appreciate this. I was talking to somebody that says, I use Claude. I said, okay, what do you use in Claude? And they had the app downloaded on their computer. And they were, if you notice on the top left now, at the time, I always have to say at the time of this recording, because it changes by the time we release stuff sometimes. There's a chat tab, there's a co-work tab, and then the code tab.
Yep.
Even people that are using it, a high percentage of them are stuck in the chat tab.
Yeah.
To your point, I mean, same thing with ChatGPT. I mean, people haven't discovered Codex. If you're paying for ChatGPT, you owe it to yourself to go see what Codex can do. Whether it's Claude or Codex, depending on your loyalty, that's not the purpose of the show. But there's individual tools, and that flips week to week too, in so many ways, right?
Yeah,
so individual tools, yeah, exactly. So individual tools to me still add a lot of value. Like I use Whisperflow for dictation, like awesome. I use Granola for meeting notes that don't join, and it does the best transcription I've found. those are still valuable, but they're not systems for you yet, right? I
Right.
think to your point. And what Felix you did was you sort of cloned yourself in many ways for the first 5, 6 questions, and it scales you. I mean, it personalizes it, it scales you. And custom GPTs were their early foray. And if you're listening to this show, if you've been listening to the show, I've done a few custom GPTs on specific things real estate agents need to do for winning in AI search, bio optimization. Just look it up with my name, and you'll find all of them. And there are many show notes that we've added. But so find a problem in your business and find the right solution. And that's when you're starting to think more system thinking more than individual tool thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great takeaway. So you clone yourself in many ways. Um, so that's custom GPT. So that's a good takeaway. What else are you doing that helps your agents and people you manage
Yeah.
um,
So
be more?
I'm transparently, I made the switch over to Claude a while ago at this point, and I use
Yeah.
it far more than I use ChatGPT. But even just going back to the custom GPTs for a second, the way you can make it scale with you is that every week I would just upload everything you just mentioned, like my Firefly notes, my meeting
Yeah.
transcripts. I would upload it straight into there, and so it always understood the context. The second thing I did when I was a real estate agent starting out my career, I remember I had this like really big goal in my head, which was I want to get my business big enough to where I can have my first assistant. I think that's like every agent's dream is
Yeah.
have a personal assistant, somebody who can manage your calendar, who can read emails, who can respond for you. We all want to get there, and we all go down the same route. It's like, okay, step one is I go and get a VA, and then I realize that like, oh, okay, this is my first time managing somebody, and a VA on the other side of the world a lot of times doesn't have all the context and understands exactly how I want to operate my business. I still have to teach them absolutely everything. It can be quite challenging. And then you move up to actually having a personal assistant, which can be a pretty costly thing, or an admin. So what I've started teaching every single real estate agent is nowadays for $20 a month using Claude, you can have your very own personal assistant. And I move them from that chat box into CoWork for the
Yeah.
first time because they all want to go into CoWork and they all hear agentic AI and all these fancy terms. And they think it sounds so scary. It's like, how do I get into it? All agentic means is you have ChatGPT or any AI doing things for you while you're not necessarily prompting it. And so if you go into and I did a video on this on Instagram actually that we can tag or link, but all you have to do is go into Claude, go into your settings, click connectors, connect your Google Calendar and your Gmail, and if you use Slack or anything else like that to talk to your team, connect that in there, and you could even throw in all of your meeting notes into it as well, and then prompt in projects, start a new project, and all you have to do is write a prompt that says every single morning at 9 a.m. or at 8 a.m. or 5 a.m. whenever you wake up, and every single evening at 6 or 7 p.m., I want you to go through my Google Calendar, my Gmail, my every single meeting note I had, my transcripts, and I want you to break down a list of priorities. What emails did I miss? What didn't I? I want you to start drafting responses for me as well so that I can get ahead of things. And that's your first step into agentic AI. Now, every single morning when you wake up, the first thing you should do is instead of opening up your email, instead of opening up your calendar, you have a very condensed version where Claude has gone and skimmed through all your emails and said, hey, Felix, you messed up. You haven't responded to Rajiv in 3 days.
Yeah.
You need to send him a message back immediately. Or, hey, your 2 p.m. showing actually emailed you asking if they could move it to 2:30. Is that okay? Do you want to respond to them? If so, I'll go ahead and schedule the meeting for you. So you have this personal assistant, and if you want to get really fancy with it, if you use Dispatch, which is just fancy for you can prompt Claude on your phone while it's living on your computer. You can be out and about and just message it and go at 1 p.m., hey, I need to move my 2 p.m. meeting to 3 p.m. and it'll go ahead and start doing it. So I think the first challenge I give agents when they want to make that jump into, using AI as an operating system, as a tool, as an employee, as an AI agent, whatever fancy word they heard on a podcast or something like that, and they come to me with is, okay, all you have to do, $20 a month, go into CoWork, connect it into the tools you're already using. It's so simple. You just click a couple buttons and you have this running. I did a video on it that gives you the exact prompt you need to use. It's step-by-step guide, and we can go ahead and link it if you want. But I would say that was the first one that I started seeing agents from any level of technological, advancement, whatever tech level they were at. I'm a big believer in something I don't know if it's been coined or not, but I've always said it. I believe in lazy technology. I think tech should be as lazy as possible. I should be able to go in and it shouldn't challenge me. I should be able to just very intuitively walk through it. Um, and I think that's what this does, and it accomplishes that. And what I've seen is the people who use this and start building their first personal assistant, immediately they go to their wife or husband or kids, and they're like, I need you to go on Claude right now. I need you to set up your own personal assistant.
Yeah.
And then they start coming up with all these other ideas. So it's a great stepping stone into how you
that's a great segue, I did something very similar. So I've had a tactic to manage my schedule. On Friday afternoon, I used to schedule, by the way, before AI. I schedule time on my calendar, Felix, review my previous week to see who I need to follow up on, and preview my next week as to get ready. So it's like a review preview. And I got that idea from Sharan Srivastava at Real. He talked about it on a podcast. That's a great idea, just kind of concept wise. But now with AI, what I did very similar. I connected all the stuff. I used GrunLove for meeting notes. So I had the MCP, all the connectors in Claude. And it basically sends me my review. Here are the high priority 5 things you should follow up on. So it cut down. Again, look at shaving time off to become more efficient, and kind of having my review preview assistant is what I call it. And it just sends it to me on Friday. And it can be any time of the day, to your point. It could be morning, evening. That's just, you're just, and that's the beauty of it. And I think the most powerful language, there's 2 things I tell people. Look, you just have to be curious, insanely curious. And when I watch videos, I don't know if this is you. I follow a few people on YouTube. When they put a video, I bookmark it with the topic of interest. I watch it and I say, that's interesting. Let me go try it. So if you just have a curiosity mindset and go shave off things in your business that have been like problem sucks, time sucks, I think you'll be much further along than just using it as a simple tool.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many use cases for how you can use AI. And the truth is, the more advanced you get, sometimes there's sort of this bar chart, this curve, this bell curve that goes up and down. And at the very beginning is like, I want to input a really simple prompt and get an answer. Somewhere in the middle is like, I need to learn how to code. I want to use Claude Code in my terminal. I want to go absolutely crazy. I want to input AI into every single aspect of my business. And then all the way at the expert level is like, you go back to basics, which is, I just want to put it in simple prompts and then have AI do things for me that save me time, make me more efficient, etc. And so it's a fun curve that I go through. And every time there's a new tool, I start at the beginning where I'm a newbie, and then I get to the middle where I think I'm a pro because I want to use every single feature. And then at the end of it, I end right back there where I'm like, I kind of just want to prompt this really easily, and I want it to save me time, and I don't want to have to think about this too much. And that's the fun part, I think, about AI right now.
Yeah, I know. I think AI is going to make people don't even know, will not recognize technology, because AI is fast becoming the new UI.
Yeah.
Right? Like even dashboards. Like I have a weekly newsletter. You and I talked about this. I don't have to go to Beehive to look at my metrics. I just have built a nice dashboard in Claude, and it just shows it to me when I go in there. Yeah. So there's a lot of areas there. Sorry, go ahead. You were saying something?
I think CRMs are going to change quite a lot over the next couple of years. Like the way you looking at a CRM, when you open up your CRM, in my head, it's going to look like when you open up ChatGPT or Claude or Grok.
100%.
It's just a bar, and you can just ask it questions. Like imagine just being like, what did I want to look like? Oh, I want to look at what my total sales are for the last 12 months, and then just type that in, and then it just immediately creates that chart. And then you want to say, actually, I want to condense that to just the zip code, and then it immediately creates that chart over. And I think that's the route we're getting to, which kind of probably brings me to step 3 of a couple other tools that I'd like to share with if you're an agent listening to this. There's a phenomenon happening right now that you may or may not have experienced already, which is when you're walking into a listing appointment or a seller, talk to a seller, and this happens even with your buyers, they ask you this question, and it's starting to happen more and more, where they go, how are you going to use AI to sell my house?
Yeah.
The truth is 99% of the consumers asking this question have no idea what the answer is supposed to be. They're just kind of asking it because they keep hearing about AI. They hear about someone sold their house only using AI, and they don't really know. And I think it's almost like it's just a test to see if you even have an answer half the time. And also it's an opportunity for you to showcase a differentiator between you and everyone else in the market, right? And this isn't new to real estate. You walk into a listing appointment, you want to make sure that what you say, what you offer, your specific value proposition is something different from everyone else going in and going, well, I'm going to hire a professional photographer. I'm going to put it on all the major portals. It's going to go on the MLS, and I'm going to host some open houses. And maybe because I'm really good, I'm going to go, send some mailers about your house or whatever. So that's like what everyone says. And your goal should always be to leave that seller or that buyer, when you leave that conversation, for them to go, you know what, that Felix guy, man, he had a couple other things I haven't heard anyone say. And so I built a couple really specific tools that I think are really strong for this use case. The first one is called dronethishouse.com. Anyone can use it. Anyone can jump into it. It came from a challenge I had when I first started in my career. I was making, I started in new development, and I broke into high end really quickly. But when I started selling general real estate, my budget for my marketing of my listings did not match the quality of listings I was picking up. So we all have this challenge when you want to jump into luxury. Okay, well, you got to be prepared to how to handle a luxury listing and market it. And if you look on any single MLS or any portal, what you'll find is almost every single house under like $600,000 does not have drone footage. There's no drone videos. There's no videography, because it's expensive. And so mostly those houses, it's just pictures. And so I built this tool called dronethishouse.com. And what it does is it takes the still images of any house, so just the picture of the front of a house, back of the house, side of the house, whatever, and it turns it into drone clips. And it takes it and it turns it into full-blown drone footage. And the idea was, why pay a couple $1,000 or $1,000 for a drone photographer when I can just get really simple, quick clips for my social media or for my whatever it is. And so all you have to do is take a picture of the front of the house. This works on your phone. Go on your phone, take a picture of the front of the house when you're right before walking in. Type in the address of the house into the tool. It pulls from Google Maps API, pulls satellite imaging so that it doesn't hallucinate that there's like a water slide in the back of the house or something when it pulls the drone footage. And you can generate that picture straight up into a drone footage. And so I had this vision in my head of like, imagine me walking into a listing appointment, and right before I go in, I just take a picture of the house, I turn it into drone footage. And then when the seller asks me like, hey, how are you going to market my house differently? How are you going to use AI? I go, but look at this. And I just turn my phone and there's this drone footage of their house. And they're going to go, when did you do that? How did you do that? When did you have time to do this? Now, is that drone footage going to be the specific reason that house gets sold? Probably not, right? But is it going to help you? Are you going to walk away from that listing with the seller going, oh my God, that was really cool. Like that's something different that no one else sees.
Yeah, it's a differentiator. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's a fun party trick also. So it changes your marketing and your social medias. Everyone posts the just listing. Everyone posts the just sold, still image carousels. You can now turn all of those carousels into videography for, pennies compared to what it is to actually spend on a videographer. And that's when you get into these like more, now I built that myself on Claude Code. That's like, you're kind of getting into step 3, which is you're not just, step 1 is leveraging one-off tools for specific reasons. Step 2 is starting to build an operating system that scales with you. We talked about the, simple ones like the calendars and all that kind of stuff, having a personal assistant. Step 3 is creating custom tools that are specific to your use case. Yeah. And that's where it gets really powerful, because now the idea that I have no technical background, I don't know how to code. If you ask me a single question about code, I wouldn't know how to answer it. The idea that I could create a very custom tool software to my specific use case in the matter of like, and by the way, this tool, I built it in 2 or 3 hours. I don't do that to brag. I say it because anyone can do it.
Anyone is a builder now, to your point.
Anyone's a builder is so powerful. And that's when I think options become unlimited. When you can start building your own custom software for everything. Like, don't ever go into an app store again. Don't ever go pay for something. You can sit down and have it yourself pretty quickly, specifically to exactly how you're doing. So check out dronethishouse.com. It's a cool tool.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that in the show notes, folks. The 3 powerful takeaways today. One is custom GPTs with some examples of cloning, scaling your business a little bit there. And then the second one was building an operating system around how you use all of these things that sort of power your business. And the third one is building custom tools based on your niche. And in this case, you can take a look at what Felix built with dronethishouse.com. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes and all the things that Felix is talking about. And Felix, I ask all my guests, anything else you want to add as a final takeaway, like an piece of advice you'd give agents before we get to my final question?
I think you gave some of the best advice, which was just be infinitely curious, regardless of how frustrated you get. Like, the one thing I will tell you is when you're going on and any tool, this is just like life advice. Whenever you're doing something new for the first time and you first experience that wall of frustration of like, this is harder than I thought. I don't understand it as easily as I thought I would. How come I see everybody on social media? It seems like they're able to use AI so much better than I can, and I'm struggling with it. Every single human on earth, including myself, goes through that process, and goes through that moment. And that's where you have to be curious, because otherwise you're never going to break through that wall, and just start asking questions like, well, what else can I use it for? And how can I do it? And the truth is that you don't have to go find an AI guru. You don't have to pay for a ton of coaching. I mean, you can, and it can be very helpful, but the best AI guru that exists is the AI tool itself. If you're stuck for any reason, the number one thing I tell people, I do this all the time and it helps, is I go to Chat or Claude or whoever, and whatever I'm stuck on, I say, please walk me through this step by step and explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, no fancy words.
100%.
I do that and it helps me infinitely. So that would be the best advice I could give anyone.
And look, I think hopefully if you're a regular listener to this podcast, you pick up on one idea, and that's the power of this podcast. When we bring smart people like Felix, you'll appreciate this. Over the weekend, I'm not a big car guy. I mean, I drive cars, but I'm not good with my hands, and I'm not a handyman with my cars. I would never do my own oil change, as an example. I just pay the professional to do it. But I said, you know what? This is not rocket science. Oil change for a regular car is not rocket science. So I picked up the Gemini mobile app. Today it does the best on video, walking you through it versus sharing screenshots. So I did the Gemini app. I flipped the phone around and I said, walk me through an oil change for my daughter's Acura. And it first said, okay, what kind of model it is, and it told me what oil to go get. I went and got that. All that I prepped all that. And I actually did the oil change in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I would have never embarked on that at all had it not been for my AI assistant that I started to trust a little bit. Now, I would not recommend doing high-risk tasks. Okay, it comes with the standard disclaimer. I don't want you to burn your house down because you heard Rajiv on a podcast. But the point is, if you're curious and you want to kind of learn new things, to your point, Felix, asking AI is the best way you can learn anything. Okay, so that's great advice. Let me get to another question I ask all my guests. Are you a book or a podcast person, Felix?
I'm both.
You're both. Okay, I'll give you both. So give me one of each, one podcast and one book that probably has been more influential than others that you've heard that our listeners should read or listen to.
That's a good one. How do I not say a basic one? Let's see. A really big book for me was Burn the Boats by Matt Higgins.
Burn the Boats. Okay.
Yeah, it's the concept that it's debated whether this is myth or not, but there's stories of Roman generals who would go to war and their ships would land on the seas of their enemies. And what they would do is they would actually burn their own boats when they landed, so that the soldiers that were rushing the city had no return. There's no way back. There's no way to retreat. Like once you're in it, the only way forward is through. And that's a concept that stuck really, really strongly with me. And earlier in my career, I faced some pretty hard challenges, both on a personal level and professional level, that for a period there almost took me out of the real estate space. And I sort of thought about just going down this tradition, especially for me, that I'm a little bit unique sometimes in the real estate industry, in which this is the one and only thing I've done. This is usually real estate can be like a second or third career. I didn't really have anything to fall back on. And I was during that period where a lot of my friends were graduating university and getting their first, real jobs in their careers. And I went through what every single realtor is going to go through at some point in their life, which is every deal falls through. You go through a hard time, things happen. And I read this book at the time. It was recommended to me by a mentor of mine. And that idea and that concept of like, if I want something this bad, I have to be willing to give absolutely everything and leave myself no plan Bs. Because at that time I started thinking, okay, well, maybe I can go work in this space. Maybe I can get a part-time job. Maybe I could do this. And that book stopped me from doing all those things, and instead sitting in that really uncomfortable period of my life and saying, I don't have any boats to go back to. I've burned them. So I'm going all in. And, I think for realtors, the truth is you're not just real estate agents. You're all CEOs of your own business. You're all entrepreneurs. And regardless of what brand you're with, what CRM you use, what team you're on, like your destiny is in your own hands. And if you give yourself outs, it's human nature. Like your brain wants safety more than anything. It will put you in positions where you start relying on them. And so
Yeah.
Burn the Boats is a great book. I recommend it to anybody who is sort of struggling with the idea of going all in, whether that's on AI, whether that's on building a personal brand on social media, which can be scary to get on camera for the first time. Like, reading that book will really change your mindset, and have you questioning, like, even if you think you're all in on what you're doing, reading that book will make you question, like, and be honest with yourself. Like, there are some things that I'm probably not doing out of fear or out of fear of judgment or whatever the case may be. So really powerful book.
Great advice. And in that definition, I'll say AI stands for all in. If you read Burn the Boats, yeah, exactly. But I haven't read the book. I've heard the story of the general burn the ships was like the concept, but I can't wait to add that to my book reading list. But Felix, this has been fun. I appreciate we got connected. I think there's a lot of value you added to our listening audience. And I hope, I know in your international travels, hopefully I'll meet you in the stateside sometime real soon.
Absolutely, Rajiv. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. And I look forward to seeing more on the podcast about AI and all sorts of things happening in our industry.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
If you found value in the show, follow it so you're notified every Wednesday when new episodes drop. Share it with someone in the industry you care for and leave us a review, as it helps us reach more real estate professionals like you.